thank you so much. It's truly an honor to be here. When I was asked to participate, I ran to my husband and I said, "You're never going to believe what I'm going to be doing." And I was so happy and excited. And Dan, I've known you for a while and you're just such a pleasure. So thank you. For those who do not know me, my name is Melissa Grabiner. I am based in Chicago, Illinois, in the US. And I have worked in HR and talent acquisition my entire career. The bulk of my experience was with a company called Takeda Pharmaceuticals. I was a global talent acquisition director for the company's largest business unit. I had a team of 22 direct reports, and we hired about 3,000 people every year, which was about half of all hires globally for the company. They moved my position to Boston, asked me to reload. At the time, I had two sons in high school and was not looking to make a move. So I ended up leaving after 18 really, really wonderful years. I currently work at a company called One Digital, where I do talent acquisition consulting, predominantly for biotechnology startups in the Bay Area in San Francisco. I help them with either hiring, building out the talent acquisition infrastructure. So all of my clients are a little bit different. And I also started a business a couple months ago helping job seekers. I was starting to receive a ton of messages on LinkedIn from people asking me if I help with resumes and LinkedIn profile optimization, so on and so forth. And I felt like the need was there, and it's really my passion helping job seekers. I've coached over 100 people from, at this point. It's been incredibly rewarding. Very blessed to be able to do what I do. Very blessed to have the career that I have. And again, thank you so much, Dan, for inviting me here.
All right, Celinda, you're up.
Hi, everyone. I feel like I know a bunch of y'all because I was trolling the participant list, of course. My name is Celinda Appleby, Celly for my friends. I currently am the Global Director of Talent Attraction and Talent Branding at Visa. I've been with Visa, it'll be 6 years in a couple of months. Absolutely adore my job. Prior to Visa, I was at Nike, Oracle, and HP. Started my career as a sourcer and sort of pivoted, not to pun definitely intended, from sourcer to recruiter to the person I am today. So happy to talk to you a little bit about what it takes to survive corporate America as a woman in leadership, and more importantly, as a Latina first gen in leadership and in a big company. Thank you.
Well, let's jump into that topic. I mean, you guys are both executive leaders within this space. And what are the most significant challenges recruiting leaders face today, primarily being maybe a female leader within this space? And what are you seeing? What are you hearing on the ground floor? Celinda, why don't you take that question?
Yeah. So first and foremost, as I've grown up in corporate, I will say there's far less of us in leadership. And yes, the people, HR organizations and the talent acquisition organizations have more of us women, if you will, in leadership. And, women like Melissa have been able to climb the ranks and stay there for a very long time. The reality is women sort of age out or take on different directions. We're constantly being called working moms, when in reality, like yourself, you are a working dad, but no one introduces you that way. And so these micro and sometimes macro aggressions bring us down. And it takes a lot of strength, courage, confidence in yourself to keep fighting the good fight. But for the women that do it every day, you're the reason I'm here, because you are my inspiration to keep going. And for all the women that are climbing the ladder alongside of me, I hope to bring some of that to them.
Melissa, how about you?
Yeah, for me, it's really interesting when I look back on my career. When I was the global TA director at Takeda, I was the only woman on the leadership team for the business that I supported. All of them were men, and then there was me. And I always felt that my voice mattered just as much as their voice. And I was not one to ever be shy to speak up and voice my opinion, even when it was going against really the grain and what was popular. I had a lot of support from my team in the work we were doing, and not everyone always agreed with the decisions I made in terms of my team, but I always felt confident in the decisions that I've made and ran with it. I had a lot of heart to heart with my boss, who was a male. He had a lot of respect for me, and we had a good relationship. But again, I was the only woman on the entire leadership team, and I think the biggest thing for me is just having the confidence and not letting my gender get in the way of what I was looking to do to add value to the business that I supported. I do think that right now, going back to your original question, I do think right now it's a very challenging time to be a job seeker. And I think a lot of pressure has been placed on talent acquisition professionals. As I think everyone on this call can attest, the job market is incredibly challenging right now. A lot of competition is out there, and there are companies that have skeleton crews when it comes to recruiting. Obviously, when companies do mass layoffs, they naturally lay off a lot of recruiters, because if a company isn't hiring, they certainly don't need people to hire, right? So a lot of recruiters go. And so I get messages every day, multiple messages a day from people on LinkedIn about their stories of being ghosted and having to create these crazy presentations as part of the interview process. And they go through a 3-month process and they never hear anything. My heart does go out to every job seeker out there, but I also have compassion for those that work in talent acquisition, because I think a lot of these people have a ton on their plates and they're spinning 10 balls in the air at one time. So there has to be, I hope to see more respect between the job seeker and the recruiters, because I think everyone is truly just trying to do their best.
So, Linda, how does one organization or a team pivot within the recruitment strategies right now, to the response to the market changes that Melissa was talking about?
So speaking internally from for a recruiter perspective, and it's so nuanced, right? As Melissa said, these companies are large, known. I can only speak for the companies I worked for in the past, known for hiring high volume or having their shifts. So when you go down to a skeleton crew and you're trying to figure out what makes sense, I hate to be the one to tell you to take on more work, but raising your hand when you're already gainfully employed and saying you are interested in project management, research, different things than your day-to-day client consulting with candidates and hiring managers will put you on a radar, especially when teams get lean. This is when Visa has gone in and got a CRM. Like, we've really have gotten more tools because things are quiet, or we're able to really digitally transform our tech stack. And so if you're a recruiter that has an entrance to HR technology, wants to design strategy, raising your hand is helpful. And I don't say this because I want you to do more work. That's how I became an employer brand talent attraction person. I was a recruiter. I was working on the sourcing team. I held 2 jobs for a long time until I finally got where I needed to be to take that internal role.
Love it.
But it does require work. Sometimes I see a lot of things on Instagram where people are like, show up. Oh, wait a minute. Am I low bandwidth? I am. You go. Something happened to my Wi-Fi. Go home.
No, I think it's a good thing that you brought up is pivoting internally, externally. Pivoting doesn't always mean, hey, I'm going to pivot outside the industry, but maybe it's pivoting into a different role within the organization. And I think you both have done it. But also it's pivoting of what other opportunities that I can make an impact or make me a side hustle that turns into a full-on business. Melissa, talk us through how you pivoted over the last 7 to 8 months of your LinkedIn journey, the followers that you have had on your LinkedIn, that people are following you now as a thought leader within the space. But it wasn't always like that. Walk us through that pivot and what made you decide to take action as a woman in this space and a leader within this space.
Yeah, so when I started my LinkedIn journey, it was really interesting. I remember a couple of years ago on the way to driving my son to college, he was a freshman. I was looking at my phone and it said I had 30,000 followers. And I said to my husband, like, I can't believe I have 30,000 followers. This is crazy. And I remember from that point on, I decided to use the platform as a voice to help job seekers and to motivate job seekers. And I decided this way because when I left that company after 18 years, my world came crumbling down and I was in a tailspin. I didn't know what was going to happen. I was anticipating retiring from this company. But I thought, I'm going to use my voice of compassion and experience as a way to help others. And my follower count just kept growing and growing and growing. I remember around October of last year, October of 2023, I hit like I don't even know, like 200,000 followers, and it was crazy. And there were some posts that I did that went completely bonkers, completely viral. And what started happening was it was almost like this perfect storm, and companies started reaching out to me saying, I love your voice. I want to work with you on a brand partnership. And I had job seekers reaching out to me saying, I want help with my resume. My LinkedIn is a mess. Like, I don't know what to do. But it was hard because I was juggling I had a full-time job. I was teaching yoga a couple times a week. I have another side business I started a while ago. So like, and I have, 2 children. So it was really hard to manage it all. But I decided in probably February of this year that I was going to take my side business seriously and really do something with it. And I thought if I have the power to help people, then I'm going to do that. And so I created a small business, and it really stemmed from my LinkedIn. Like, if I didn't have, I guess, so many supporters on LinkedIn and so many people asking me to help them, it never would have really occurred to me to try to create a business out of this. And it's been a lot of fun. I've been able to help over 100 job seekers. I've gotten perfect ratings from every single person that I've been able to help. And so it's been incredibly, satisfying. One thing I will say about LinkedIn that I tell people all the time, because people reach out to me and they say, how did you grow to have so many followers? And what I tell everyone is that it doesn't happen overnight. You have to be committed. You're going to have some weeks where you're going to gain a lot of followers, and you're going to have other weeks where the activity is going to be much slower. It's a long-term game. You can't wake up one day and all of a sudden have a crazy amount of followers. You have to be committed. And it's not just about posting and reading the replies. It's posting, reading the replies, commenting on the replies, commenting on other people's posts, forming relationships with people. And through the LinkedIn platform, I have been on a ton of podcasts. I've done a ton of LinkedIn Live events, all at the aim of helping job seekers. None of this is, I don't get paid for any of this. This is just simply my way to give back to the community, especially because so many people are struggling. And so to be honest, LinkedIn has really changed my life for the better. It's been a lot of fun. Dan, you and I met on LinkedIn, and I was able to form 2 side companies because of LinkedIn. But I would tell people that it doesn't happen overnight. You have to be patient. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days, but just keep at it and use the platform for being a voice of good, being a voice of reason, and doing what you can to help others and give back. That's when the real magic starts to happen.
Love it. Both of you are on advisory boards. And as a female leader on an advisory board, what unique perspectives do you bring to the table, typically in a male-dominated space with that? I always think if I see a woman on an advisory board, that is amazing because they have a different perspective and a different level of ideas. But I'd love to get your guys' take on that. Celinda, how about you?
Yes, and I'll be honest with you, I believe my network is being really weird. So I will keep my answers short just in
Sure.
case you see that. But anyways, I have been really blessed in being a part of advisory boards for the past 5 years. I will tell you every single request came from LinkedIn. So I echo all of the sentiments that Melissa shared. You don't have to use LinkedIn for job seeking. It's all about how you tailor your profile. I enjoy being on advisory boards, gender aside, because I'm able to provide my POV of how users will be able to engage. I think oftentimes a lot of our tools are built for the masses, whether it's men or Caucasians or whatever, and I feel that, the perspective of multiple genders, multiple ethnicities, or that crossroads are so important. And so I just been really, blessed to have that opportunity to share my POV and see things happen in real life, whether it's organic or helping the roadmap. That is just amazing to me.
Melissa, what's your experience?
Yeah, so I'm currently on 2 boards, and it's been a lot of fun. One board is called Limelight, where the company matches LinkedIn creators with LinkedIn brands. And tries to form partnerships between the two. And then I'm on another board called Open to Work. We actually just launched last week, where it's a very small group of us. I think there's 6 or 7 of us, with our aim of helping as many job seekers as we can. That is so incredibly rewarding. And when the head of this group reached out to me and said, I'd love for you to be on the board, I jumped at the chance, because I thought this is a perfect alignment with my background, my skill set, and my goal of helping as many job seekers as I can. On this particular board, I'm only one of 2 women, so the vast majority, the head of it is a man. All the other members besides me and someone else is a man. And so I'm a female, they're males. We might have a little bit of different perspective on a couple of things, but I'm never shy of giving my opinion, and I feel like I was asked to be on these boards for a reason, because the leaders felt confident in me that I could add value. So putting any of the gender stuff aside, I am very involved. I provide my input. I am very open to other people's input as well. There have been times where we all haven't agreed on an approach, and I always think it's important to listen to other people's point of view, but also that my voice matters. And just because I'm a female doesn't make me any less credible. My voice matters just as much as anybody else's. Again, gender aside, I think everyone has value. No matter what job you do, no matter where you are in your career, we all have value. And it's important that we're always our own best cheerleaders and are always our own best advocate, and be confident in what you believe in, because you do matter.
You hit on amplifying women voices. There's a question in the chat that says, can you comment about getting more support and visibility speaker-wise as a female? Not really so much on LinkedIn visibility, but other ways. I think within being a TA leader, roles in public speaking as a platform to amplify not just only your voices, but the voices of other women in the industry can have a huge impact. Can anybody highlight maybe a situation where someone gave you the voice so you can use that voice for others? Or walk us through some tips and tricks on how to get your voice out there.
I can definitely take that before my internet crashes again. It feels so 1982 with the internet here. But what I can say is I started speaking over 15 years ago. I don't think Dan's on this line, but Dan Balvinis was my career builder, account rep. And he said, you have a great story to tell, so why don't you join us, on stage? And I do believe your network is so important. And without sounding super quirky, I believe in the law of manifestation or the law of attraction. And every year I say what my goals are. And my goal every year is to do 3 to 4 speaking opportunities, to be selective and figure out which ones are best aligned. And I make a point to let those brands know that I want to work with them in a very demure, classy way. And then secondarily, I think it's important that when you do get invited to opportunities, you give them people. If you can't make it, provide another woman, provide someone that looks like you, be classy, be demure. Yes, very mindful in extending your network out as well. I think it's very important.
Yeah, I don't know if everyone knows what a LinkedIn Live event is, but basically it's almost like a webinar off of the LinkedIn platform. I'm actually doing one later today, and I'm doing another one tomorrow, but I usually do a couple of these a month, and I typically do it with different people. So I never do it by myself. I like partnering with different people that are in the industry, so they hear kind of like my voice and my thoughts, and then having the thoughts and voice and opinions of someone else. I think it always makes sense to have a couple people leading these events. But this is my way of they're kind of like speaking engagements without getting paid. And, when I do these LinkedIn Live events, I would never take a penny from any company. Again, I don't do this for the money. I do it because I truly have a passion for helping job seekers. And, I've had some of these events where I've had over 10,000 people join, and I'm like, oh my God, I have 10,000 eyeballs on me. And I've never been one to shy away from public speaking. I actually feel like I'm in my element when I'm on a stage or when I'm speaking in front of a group of people. But, when you have 10,000 people like listening to you, it can get a little nerve wracking. But knowing that, even if I help one job seeker find a job based on that discussion, then it's 100% worth my time. And so what was happening was, once I started doing these events, I started getting asked by, it kind of had a ripple domino effect where I had someone reach out to me and say, I just heard you on this LinkedIn Live event. I'm also in the talent acquisition space. Would you like to partner and collaborate? And if it makes sense, then we'll do it. And if it doesn't, we won't. But then I have a new connection and someone new in my network. I will continue to do these speaking events or LinkedIn Live events because I think that it allows me to get my voice out there and show help and motivation for job seekers. It's so powerful to know that I'm able to help people. And again, that's why I do exactly what I do. I've had some events where it's me and another woman. I've had some events where it's me and a man, or we have a group of people, but they're so much fun. And, getting the feedback from the people who attend the events saying, thank you for your time. And I actually changed my resume because of what you suggested, or I did this networking, kind of tactic because of what you suggested. It makes it all worth it.
The more conversations you have, the more relationships you build, you tweak some things. And
Yes.
both of your scenarios have had different paths. And one of the questions that says, what advice would you give to someone who hasn't had the traditional progression in their TA career after 10 plus years? Typical progression is maybe a recruiting coordinator, sourcer, recruiter manager, director, and so on. Both of you have different paths. And I would be curious on what would you say for those individuals that don't have that traditional progression, and maybe saying, is that wrong? Is that right? Is that okay? What would you tell to those individuals?
Yeah, I think a lot of recruiters, the beautiful thing about being a recruiter is that people have what I call transferable skills. Teaching someone to be a recruiter is not rocket science. I started my career as a senior HR business partner and within the same company moved to a recruiter role. And the reason I was chosen to move into that role was because I had the transferable skills. And I think to be a successful recruiter, you need to have compassion and time management and being, having a lot of attention to detail and incredible communication skills and caring about the candidate experience. These are all transferable skills. There have been many recruiters that I've hired for my team throughout the years that had no experience, that were right out of college, or maybe were in finance for 10 years and wanted to switch into recruiting. When I interview people, I always am able to assess, are they teachable? Are they willing to put in the work? Are they someone who would get along with others? And are they someone that I would want to represent our company and really care about the candidate experience? Those are the most successful hires that I've had. So again, so many people that are in recruiting, they don't start in recruiting. They kind of transfer to be a recruiter. It's having those soft skills and having the ability to communicate when you're interviewing what those transferable skills are and how you feel based on your past experience that you could successfully become a recruiter. It's explaining that to the hiring manager or to the recruiter you're speaking with. But again, most people I know that are recruiters didn't start as a recruiter. They somehow were doing something else before and then transferred into that sort of job function. But I think transferable skills and being able to communicate that effectively is really, really important.
I want to plus one and not negate anything Melissa said, but also take a completely different approach.
Mhm.
I want y'all to think about careers like a Netflix season or a successful Netflix show or wherever, Hulu if you want. Every season is different. Sometimes you're a main character and you're climbing that ladder and raising your hand to take on everything and everything to put your visibility and work on your executive presence. Then there's other seasons when you're like, I'm going to take a back seat. My focus is candidates. I'm going to make hires this year. And sometimes that season is about your family and being there for your children or your aging loved ones or whatever your situation is, your cats, your dogs. Not every year of your life is going to be about climbing that corporate ladder. And we need to get okay with that. It's about the ziggy zaggies. It's about the laterals. And yes, transferable skills is the unlock, but we need to be okay with not having traditional career paths, especially in talent acquisition, when we have been getting beat up since 2016. And I can go deeper because 2008 wasn't nice at all to us either. But if the world is not safe for our industry. We need to be okay with the pivots. We need to be okay with the zigzagging. And honestly, be okay with taking new things. It's going to help you really grow and come back to the career as a recruiter when it's ready for you, because this is not our end all be all. We will be on top again. I'm shooting for fall after the election.
You talk about the peaks, the valleys, the zigs, the zags, and you only can get out of those valleys with the mentorship and the support system
100.
around you.
Mhm.
Walk me through, maybe was there a leader that really said, hey, Melissa, hey, Sally, you're one of the leaders within the space, and gave you kind of the roadmap to go do what you do best, and it's creating high level relationships and leading teams and put in processes. Who was that person? And walk us through mentorship and how important a support system is, especially being a women leader and having individuals have your back throughout that process.
You know, I'm going to be real honest here, and I apologize for anyone that's ever been my leader, but I've never had a leader that was like, here is the guidebook. We're going to sponsor you all the way to the top. I have always been, at least in my corporate career, in employer brand and recruitment marketing or talent attraction, however you want to call it, there is no guidebook. Every company's on a different journey. I show up, I build the guidebook, we keep going. That doesn't mean that I don't grow my network and find sponsors along the way. But what I'll tell everyone that is the most real thing you can do is build yourself a board of advisor. It's going to be people inside your company, people outside your company, people above you, people below you. Go to them when you're having issues, concerns, you want to grow. And it's not one person. I think it's a multitude of humans that are bought into your success. That's my unlock for everyone.
Yeah, I love that. I will say for me, it was really interesting what happened with me. So when I started at Takeda, I was there for 18 years. When I started, I was a senior HR business partner, and my boss literally took me under her wing, treated me like her own sister. We had the best relationship. And what was interesting is when I transferred to be the global director of talent acquisition, she then became an employee that I was managing. It was kind of an interesting situation because she ended up relocating, but the job had to be in Chicago. So she took a lesser job as a recruiter. So I remember having the conversation with her saying, I might be your boss on an org chart, but to me, we're both equals. And I felt that way with all of my direct reports. Like anyone can say, well, Melissa's up here and all her direct reports are down there. I learned as much from my direct reports as they learned from me. And the reason that I am successful today is because of the people that were on my team. But she was my mentor. And even though I'm no longer at the company, she's still a very dear friend of mine to this day. She was the one who really hired me and not just was my manager, but was my true mentor. And then when the roles were reversed and I was her, I hate the word boss, but when I was her boss or leader, I kind of took her under my wing and said, okay, this is how we can get you to the next level and the next level and the next level. But it was a really interesting relationship, and I was scared to death. All of a sudden I'm going to be managing someone who hired me into the company. It was a little bit of a kind of a quirky situation, but right off the bat, I proactively had that call with her and said, I don't want you to be uncomfortable. Nothing's going to change with our relationship. I owed so much to her for making me the professional that I was. And I still to this day say to her, like, I owe my career to you because you were the one who initially hired me. You really cared about me as a person and as a professional. And she taught me so much of what I needed to know. And I think because of the skills I gained when she was my boss, that's why I was able to become a TA global director as quickly as I was.
It's interesting that you say that because I think currently right now people are pivoting into different roles. Maybe they were a leader, then they go back into an IC role, going back into a leadership role. A lot of the things are changing, and humbling yourself of it's not about titles, it's about impact that you can make. And really, I always say when you're making a decision with that, don't follow titles, don't follow dollars, don't follow anything like that. Follow leadership, and the leadership's going to get you where you want to go. There's
Yeah.
a question in the chat that said, what advice would you have for a woman 50 plus that has been in TA leadership for a long time? but took a career move for the past 4 years outside of TA and now would like to get back into a TA leadership role. What advice would you give to that individual?
Yeah, I mean, I'm 52 years old in true disclosure. So I understand, and I coach job seekers all the time who are over the age of 40 and who feel like their age has been a deterrent in finding new jobs. So, I appreciate the question, and I'm right there with you, sister, because, I'm 52 and I've been working for, 30 plus years, but I think it goes back to the transferable skills you know, and I want to mention something else, Dan, that I think is really important. And this is something that I coach a lot of people on too, especially for people that are looking to make a career change. I found my current job by sending a note to the CEO of my company on LinkedIn. Um, there wasn't a job posting. I was interested in the company. I researched who she was. I sent her a note, and 2 weeks later, I had a job offer in hand. The reason I share this is because I feel like in today's job market, job seekers have to differentiate themselves. And going into this, I knew there was a good chance she would never respond to me, but I thought why not give it a try? And if she doesn't, then I have nothing ventured, nothing gained. Well, she did respond, and I've been at my company for 3 years. So I would say, for people that are looking for a job, it's not enough anymore to simply apply, cross your fingers, and hope for the call. It's being proactive, finding people in your network who work at that company, having people make an introduction, reaching out to the decision makers. So for someone who's like this question, I would say when you're looking to any job that you apply to, do a search on LinkedIn, try to figure out who the hiring manager is. At a minimum, send a note to the recruiter. I know a lot of people that get roles that way, and I can tell you as a recruiter myself, I love when people reach out to me on LinkedIn because it shows they're professional, it shows they're proactive, they're kind of going above the grain and doing something to differentiate themselves. But I always feel like we always have to be our own best advocate, and no one's going to advocate for us as much as we're going to advocate for ourselves. But taking the extra step, doing what you need to do instead of applying for a job, sitting back, crossing your fingers and hoping you're going to get a call. It's different. Again, it's doing something above and beyond other people. And then it's talking about the transferable skills that you have and why you feel, based on your prior experience or current experience, why you would be a really good fit for the role that you are interested in or the role you apply to.
Love it. We have time for one last question, and I'd love to have both of you answer this. But can you give advice for aspiring female leaders within this space? There's ups, there's downs. What advice would you give to those women aspiring to be leaders within this space for years to come? Celinda, why don't you start?
Looks like
She froze. All right, Melissa, take it away.
Yeah, I would say I think part of it goes back to mentorship is find women who you admire, and reach out to them on LinkedIn. I mentor people that contacted me on LinkedIn. I have about 4 people that I mentor. I meet with them every month, and they proactively reached out to me and said, "I would love if you can mentor me," and I love doing it. So I said, "Oh my God, thank you so much for asking. Absolutely, let's do this." It's finding mentors. It's becoming involved in perhaps different organizations. There's an HR organization in Chicago that I'm a part of. I'm a part of a few LinkedIn HR groups, a few LinkedIn talent acquisition groups. I would say be very active on LinkedIn. I post at least once a day, 6 days a week. The more you post on LinkedIn, the more people are going to see you on LinkedIn, and all of a sudden you're going to start seeing that your network is going to really, really grow and blossom. And ask people to mentor you. I've learned a ton from people above me, and it's been such a blessing in my career. But just get yourself out there, get yourself in front of people, go to networking events. I know a lot of people shy away from that. I think they're a lot of fun. It's a way to meet new people. I'll tell this also really, really quickly. When I left Takeda after 18 years, literally, like, I think it was 3 weeks later, I was on a panel of an HR organization in Chicago. And through that event, I met a ton of people that I still talk to this day. So reach out to like local organizations that are HR focused, see how you can get involved, because that's a way to hone your leadership skills. And that's a great way to meet new people within the kind of the job that you're looking to do.
Love it. Sally, how about you? I know your network's in and out, but maybe one last word of advice for the group.
Yes. Okay. And this is not an ad by any means, but I joined Mentium, and I'll pop it into the chat as a mentor, but they also have mentee opportunities. There is no cost. It's a thorough matching process. And I strongly recommend it. I'm wrapping up my mentorship program right now. It's a year commitment. And I had an amazing mentee, and I strongly recommend it if you're looking for a mentor and sliding into someone's DMs isn't the right way.